Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Jillian. I'm the founder of Sharks for Kids, and I cannot believe we're on week 8 of our webinar series. So, yeah, it's amazing. Thank you guys for those of you who keep tuning in. We have a lot of regulars, and I'm really excited because this one's slightly different. We haven't done this style yet, so I'm excited to be hosting this session. And with us today, we have author Seth Fishman. And his new book is going to be coming out May 19th. Am I correct?
Yeah, next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. All right. So today you're going to get a little excerpt from the book, a little bit about maybe why he was inspired to write it, why he's sitting in a bathtub. So I'm going to go ahead and just remind everyone that's here with us, put your questions in the Q&A. We'll do our very best to answer as many of those as possible. And thank you so much, Seth, for your time today and for sharing your story, literally, with us. So I'm going to go ahead and let you take over.
All right. Thank you so much, Jillian, and thanks to everyone for being here. I hope you're holding up okay. You know, I understand that sometimes you might get a little antsy, and these amazing webinars hopefully give you the opportunity to learn some really amazing things. So thank you for joining me. I'm in the bathtub. I will tell you a little bit more about that, but just a little bit about me. I write kids books. I've been writing kids books for a while. My first one was called 100 Billion Trillion Stars, which is about really big numbers. And the next one was called Power Up, which is about the amazing energy you have inside you. And the one I'm going to be reading today, which comes out next week, is called The Ocean in Your Bathtub. Now, you might have noticed something. I'm not going to go into those other ones because, you know, this is about the ocean book. But the illustration was the same, sort of similar style. So I wrote this book, but unfortunately, I am not I'm not an illustrator. I'm very bad at illustrating. So I just wrote it, and another amazing artist named Isabel Greenberg, she is the one who illustrated this book. And so to speak a little bit along those lines, I just wanted to prove to you, you know, we're doing sharks right here, so I'm going to show you what it would be like if I were to have done the illustrations myself. You know, maybe I'm proving myself wrong because I think this is the best shark I've ever seen. Do you guys agree? Is this would have been good enough to be in the book? Maybe not. So I got a thumbs up from Julian. So this is an example of what I can do. So I needed someone to come help me. And Isabel is amazing. She lives in England and London, and she's been helping me out this whole time. Okay, so let me dive in. Now, normally when I read a picture book, I just read it straight through, but I'm going to read this one slow and stop and talk and explain some things along the way, including some of it's going to be about how a book is made, and some of it's going to be about what I've learned or the things I couldn't fit in about ocean facts. So let's begin. The ocean in your bathtub. Now, here's a fun fact. On the inside of all those picture books you have, this page right here where there's no text is called the end papers. This is where the artist gets to have some fun, do some really beautiful illustrations. Jillian, can everyone see this okay? Do you feel like this is okay?
Yes, we can see clearly. I feel like, yeah, everything's pretty great.
Great. Sorry, just wanted to make sure before I dove all the way in. So this is a place where the illustrator can do some really fun things. And I recommend you always look to see what's there because there's usually something hiding there. It's pretty great. The ocean in your bathtub. And on this page is where there's often a dedication. There's the dedication to my wife, Margette. All right, everyone, here we go. Would you do me a favor? Check to see if there's any salt water beneath you. Go on, check. I'll wait. Is there? There's not? That's strange because the oceans are everywhere. It's true. 5 oceans cover 71% of our planet and contain 97% of our water. Almost 4 out of every 10 humans live within 60 miles of one of those oceans. Now, I wonder what ocean you're living nearby. I live right here, which is right near the Pacific Ocean. We've got the Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean, Arctic Ocean, and the Southern Ocean. When I was younger, they didn't name the Southern Ocean the Southern Ocean. It was like the planet Pluto existed back then, and now it doesn't. Sometimes scientists change the way things are named. But I actually grew up in the middle of Texas over here in the desert. And some of you who are watching might also be, from a place where there's no ocean nearby. And one of the reasons why I wanted to write this book is to let you know that the ocean is really affecting you no matter where you are. And we talk about sharks. I was scared of sharks. I shouldn't have been, but in the desert where they make them scary. That's what I always envisioned sharks were, and it took me a long time to realize how amazing they are as creatures. And so this is a book that's going to try and bring the ocean to you no matter where you are. See, but even if you don't live near a beach and instead you live in a skyscraper, or you live in a mountains, or on a farm, or on a riverboat, the ocean still plays an enormous role in your everyday life. Okay, everyone, go take a look at the nearest window. Do you see a cloud in the sky? I'll wait there too. I'm looking out. I don't know if you can see back here. I'm not going to turn the camera, but it's kind of gray, right? That it is cloudy outside. Now, you might not have clouds, but for those that you do, or you know what a cloud looks like clearly, that cloud most likely is loaded with water vapor that's straight from the ocean. Seawater evaporated into the air and formed that cloud, and now it's drifting over you. Eventually, it will pour down rain, and lots of that rain will trickle back to the ocean to form a new cloud. We call this the water cycle. So you might have heard about the water cycle before. There's a lot of steps to it, but there's 3 major steps, okay? The first one is evaporation. So that's when the water, this doesn't have to be ocean water. It could be water from lakes, it could be rivers, it could be the water in a puddle outside after you were splashing in the playground with the water hose. It gets warm, and then the water evaporates into gas and goes into the sky, okay? Then it cools down, it starts to get heavier, and it creates clouds. And then it gets so heavy that it starts to fall down, and that's called precipitation. So when it turns into clouds, that's condensation when it's heavier, and then it falls down, that's called precipitation. It doesn't have to be just a rainstorm. It could be like, when you wake up in the morning and you run outside and you step on the grass and it's wet on your feet. It could be that too. Some water, it doesn't return straight to the ocean. It actually rains or snows down and it fills our reservoirs or our lakes and our rivers. And those, along with our underground aquifers, are our major sources of drinking water. Now, underground aquifers, I don't know if anyone knows what those are. You can ask questions about that. But basically, those are like lakes underneath the ground or porous rock. Porous means holy rock that is just filled with water. But it's really important. We tap wells. We drill wells into the ground to pull it up to be able to feed our food. And you know how I said that the ocean covers 97% of our water? Well, only 1% of the water, one little bit of the water is fresh, drinkable water. So it's really important that we preserve that fresh, drinkable water, isn't it? Every plant, tree, and blade of grass is fed by falling water. All of our fruits, grains, and vegetables need water to grow, just like we do. And they make up a large part of the food we eat nearly every day. Now, I think Isabel did an incredible illustration. I really love it, so I want to go a little bit closer to see. So the ocean is hiding in your afternoon snack, isn't it? All right. In fact, those crops are only one part of the bounty of the sea. About 3 billion people rely on seafood to survive every day. There's 7.5 billion people on Earth, so that means just under half totally rely on seafood to survive. Can you recognize any things in here? What do you see here? I see a crab, and I see fish sticks, and I see sushi, and I see shrimp cocktail. Ugh. And there's ramen over here. What are your favorite seafoods? Can some of you guys write that in for me? I'd love to know, okay? All right, this is a fun one. The ocean doesn't just, I actually found this crazy, I gotta say. The ocean doesn't just provide thunderstorms and drinking water and food for life on land. Now that's a lot, isn't it? That should be enough. Thank you, ocean. We actually breathe because of it too. Even if you're too far from the sea to smell the salt in the air, almost 7 out of every 10 gulps of air you take contain oxygen that come from plant life in the ocean. Now, I always thought the rainforest was the most important thing for air and breathing. And mind you, it still really is, and we need to be careful with the rainforest. But 7 out of every 10, 70% of our breathable air comes from the ocean. It's pretty incredible. You see, there's a forest of trillions and trillions of tiny plants that float in the sea. They're called plankton. And they take in sunlight and they exhale oxygen. These are like the big breathing lungs of the ocean. Feels good, doesn't it? Now don't try and breathe underwater unless you have snorkeling gear or scuba gear. So I'm going to pause right here and show you something that's really cool. I don't know if you read on the news, but after this, you can go take a look. There's something going on in Southern California right now. Some of you guys might be there. That's where I am right now. It's called bioluminescence. It's so amazing. If you go out in the nighttime and you go to the ocean, you watch the waves go, they turn blue. If you threw a rock in the ocean, if you could do that, it would hit and ripple and turn blue. And in the day, if you see it, the ocean looks red. It's called the red tide. What that really is this happens a decent amount, almost yearly. However, it's bigger or smaller depending on the year. And right now, it's really, really big. The ocean takes on a red tint because of the plant life, the plankton, a specific type of plankton called dinoflagellate. Can you say that? Dinoflagellate is in the ocean, and that turns blue when it's sort of touched or bothered. That's why the waves make it happen. And in fact, they only have a few times that they can squirt blue before they run out of battery, basically. You have to recharge every day in the sun. So in a lot of ways, it's very much like a glow stick. Does everyone know what a glow stick is? Look at this. This looks, nice and normal. What happens is it has the same kind of chemicals, the exact same kind of chemicals that these dinoflagellates have, which are plants. And if you bother it, if you mess with it, if you shake it around, then you've got this amazing color that comes forth. And this is exactly what happens, just like this to these plants out on the ocean, covering the whole thing. It's so amazing. And you should ask your parents to show you a video of it, because there's going to be videos of dolphins swimming around it and everything. It's so cool. And just like out there, this glow stick will run out of batteries, basically. Not batteries, but will run out of its own energy at some point in time. And unfortunately, this one won't have enough juice to be able to recharge from the sun. But the plants are able to do that, which is a really amazing system. So I thought this was really cool. I'm going to put this right here to light our way for the rest of the book. All right. Oh, the cover came off. Let me just put that back on. Okay, there we go. Of course, humans aren't the only creatures relying on oceans. Bears, birds, and numerous other animals rely on the fish and seafood for their daily diet. Plants do too. In fact, soil along the rivers that empty into the ocean is fertilized by fish, often salmon, swimming upstream. That's not even counting the potentially many more than 1 million species that live in the oceans. The ocean is filled with life and wonder. This is one of my favorite pages we have in every book. It's just crammed with all the fun facts. Like, for instance, did you know that, so a lot of beaches are made from rocks breaking down over time with the waves hitting it and hitting it. But also not just rocks. Some of the white sand beaches in Hawaii are actually created from the poop of the parrotfish. Yeah, that's right. You walk on poop beaches and you love it. It's totally fine. Imagine this little sand here, right here. You got some blue sand. I don't know what the blue sand is, but the white sand, you can just imagine that's good old parrot poop. Other fun things. More people have stepped on the moon, have gone all the way up to the moon, than has been down to the Marianas Trench, which is the deepest part of the ocean. In fact, the ocean is so deep that sunlight can't get there. Sunlight can only travel it can travel freely about 650 feet, but once it sort of gets below that, it starts having a hard time. So it gets dark. So a lot of the fish that are down there have sort of ways of lighting up, just like that the glow stick in the back there. Another cool fact, the sperm whale's ribcage and lungs deflate, actually like a balloon, deflate down to allow it to dive deep all the way down to 7,000 feet below the surface. The heaviness of the ocean pushes on it and allows that to do that. It's really incredible. So there's all sorts of really cool facts And I could just keep going and going and going. But that's what I guess you can learn here at other webinars. All right, well, here's the really important stuff, right? Just as the oceans affect everyone everywhere, everything you do affects the oceans. The baths we take, the toilets we flush, the garbage we toss, the balloons we let slip from our fingers. For a long time, no one thought about how much stuff we put in our oceans and how many fish or other marine life we took out. I bet you guys can see some things that aren't supposed to be in the ocean there, huh? Maybe you could think of ways that we can save the ocean, right? And do things that are good for the ocean. Put those in the comments below. Sometimes it takes a while for us to learn from our mistakes. But now's our chance, because even the smallest actions can do some good. That good deed of yours can have a great effect. If everyone does something small to help our ocean, those deeds will ripple outward at the same way that streams feed into rivers and lakes and back into the oceans, all of which is eventually flowed that way. This ocean of good deeds surrounds us all, bringing everyone and everything together, even you, no matter where you are. So, don't worry if you're not visiting the ocean anytime soon. And right now, I understand it's hard to visit the ocean. The ocean is bound to visit you right in your bathtub anyways. So that's the book. I do have on the back here an author's note filled with a lot more information about various things, aquifers and the water cycle, so you can dig in and learn a little bit more. But that's the book. I'm really, really happy to be sharing it with you. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm having trouble getting this cover back on.
Well, thank you so much. I think it's, you know, we've talked a lot about sharks, obviously, in this series. But for those of you who've seen me host sessions before, you've definitely heard me say how connected to the ocean we all are, no matter where we live, because you might not think about sharks and the role they play in your life, benefit, and why they're important for healthy oceans. But I think this book is just really highlights that no matter where we are in the world, we are connected to the ocean. And that's why it's so important for all of us to do our part, to take action. And, you know, we just had Earth Day not that long ago, and you know, you guys might have talked about using less plastic and, you know, cleaning up your trash, making sure you recycle. These are all things, and it is all connected, and we're all connected. So I love that the book shares that message. I had a preview of the book, so I felt very lucky. I really, really enjoyed it. It's definitely one we'll be encouraging people to purchase, because I think it's an important message. And I'll make sure, for those of you in here, I will go ahead and type the website as well into the chat. But if you're interested in watching this again, before we jump into some Q&A, guys, if you're interested in watching this again or getting the links, if you go to our website, the Sharks for Kids, the webinar section, we're going to have this recorded. You can check it out again, share it with your friends and family, but also see the links to purchase the book. So make sure you check that out. All right, so.
Well, before you start, also, I was going to say, also on my website, which we'll send links for, we have a few downloadable things. We have some pages from the book in black and white that you can color. Yeah, there we go. So Isabel did that. That's pretty fun. And you can just download. That's white. I don't know why that's there. So you can just you can get those, and they'll just download straight there. We also have a little bit of a scavenger hunt to talk about the different ways, and you can find out different ways in the house or around on walks that you might take, whereby the ocean affects you, or what you can see the ocean is like. Do you know that like seaweed is an ingredient in so many different things, from toothpaste to shampoo, or you can just, you know, take a look at the faucets here where water comes right out of. So you can do a little scavenger hunt and have some fun with it. You know, return post some pictures or things like that. So that's also on my website under the ocean book. So something else to do.
Oh, so fun. We love, I think this is a great time too for people to do some activities and lots of fun craft projects. I'm sure people are diving into those. So awesome. Yeah, so make sure, guys, all those links, we'll make sure they're accessible for you as well, and ways to, we are pre-order now, but pretty soon it's just going to be order the book, grab your copy. So, all right. first question I like to ask, and maybe you don't, but just, do you have a favorite shark? I know it's not a shark book, but I did see a shark in there. So do you have a favorite shark or one you really like?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great question. And so when I did just see sharks at the aquarium, you know, I have always been partial, just by pure, you know, looks and smell, to the hammerhead, because it's just like how, in a lot of ways, the hammerhead is one of the best definitions of the earth doing interesting things with creatures, and you know, something that's both recognizable and not. And I just think it's such an amazing you know, example of that. But you know, the whale shark is something that my son is really into right now, and he just loves watching videos of them, and I think they're so beautiful. So I guess that's coming quickly into number two. I know it's not super exotic, but that would be my answer there.
Yeah, well, I will agree wholeheartedly, because in my opinion, the great hammerhead is the coolest animal on the planet. So I will definitely agree with you on that one. Definitely one of my favorites, and for similar reasons. Such an incredible creature, and not like anything else, which is really special. All right, and on that same note, do you have a favorite ocean animal? So you talked about a few in there. You obviously live kind of near the ocean. Do you have something other than a shark? Totally fine if it's a shark, but
yeah.
if
I mean, the answer, that there are just too many. I mean, there are too many, and it's not that I'm not going to give you answers, but I mean, there's literally millions of creatures down there that do some amazing things. So, you know, I mean, I like dolphins because they're so playful, as well. But what in the world? I just had my obvious answer, which I always love, and I'm totally blanking on it. I'm gonna remember it. I'm gonna come back around to it. I'm gonna come back around to it. But I like. Oh my gosh, I said dolphins and it just blew it out of my head. We'll come back around to that. I have answers for you there. Don't worry.
let us know, no problem. All right, we had Marley and Marcella both ask, why did you write this book, or what inspired you to write this book?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, I wrote my first one because I just had my kid, and I was trying to think about how I could answer questions for him. And so it became this kind of series. All these books sort of, they're not, you don't have to read each of them to read the other, but they're sort of similar in style, filled with fun, interesting facts. And so I knew sort of how I was going to write it because of that. But I had mentioned I'm from the desert in Texas, and I really was curious to know, now that I live near the ocean, how my kids are what their life is going to be like over the fact, like, I don't know. I don't know how to surf, and I don't know how to even bodyboard very well. But everyone here knows how to do it. All the kids know how to do it, and I'm just like, oh, I got to learn how to do this. I got to get wetsuits. I got to get out there. I got to do this for my kids so I can learn how to do that and be part of the ocean experience. And as I was doing that, I started thinking, like, what is his life like? That's going to be different. That he's so close to this big thing, or rather, what did I miss? And I realized that while I did miss actually being in the water, the ocean really just affected me in all these different ways. And it just, you know, the idea just popped in my head at that point. And everything, the book sort of wrote itself after that. And so that's where I started writing this book.
Cool. I think that's amazing when you speak to authors, and it's always interesting to see the why, because there is usually a pretty incredible story. And I like the fact that, you know, I've said on a couple of the How to Draw a Shark webinars that we've had why I'm participating, because we have a lot of artwork for Sharks for Kids. It is not mine. And there's a reason for that. And so, yeah, there are a lot of talented artists out there. So, yeah, it's the beautiful artwork as well. It helps tell the story. But, yeah, I think it's amazing when you hear the story behind a book. And a lot of times we don't, right? We don't get that. We get the book, we read it, and we don't know. So it's really personal and amazing. And maybe it inspires some of you guys who are watching and listening, if you know, you're interested in this and have an idea, stick with it and find a way to share that. You know, kids publish books too, but adults watching, if you have something you're passionate about and you feel like it's worth it, you know, write it down, share it, and get it out there.
Absolutely.
Cool. So Shayna would like to know, how long did it take you to write the book?
That's a great question. So unlike big books like Harry Potter, these picture books have about 500 words, which is not a lot. It's not short, but it's way shorter than any of those other books. Those other books take writing for several hours a day for 3 to 6 to 9 months. This one, my publisher really liked my first two and asked me to do it really quickly. So I had to write it in about 2 months, and that was a lot. And when I say 2 months, I mean I wrote it probably over a weekend, revised it, which means I edited it, changed it again and again and again and again. And there were so many facts, I had to make sure that they're right. So I sent it to an aquarium in Long Beach, which is near Los Angeles, called the Aquarium of the Pacific. And they fact checked it for me, which means that they looked at everything and they said, oh, this isn't exactly right. And then I had to change it or whatnot. And I made more edits. But basically from start to finish, from the very first line to the completely polished, looking good, ready to go, 2 months. And normally it takes 8 or 9 months for that full process to happen. But in terms of actually writing a picture book, because they're so short, if I get a really good idea, I can write it in 2 days. And then I have to spend a lot of time getting it into shape. It's like a poem, basically, but I can write it in 2 days. And that's really one of the bonuses of picture books in general, is that if you have an idea, you can see if it has any legs, if it has any merit, if it's any good really quickly, as opposed to bigger books, again, like Harry Potter, you have to write for months before you realize it's good or not. So it's been a really good experience.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, having done self-published and then just actually did a book for a publishing company, and yeah, it wasn't a long book, but going through the edits and double checking everything and going through and matching illustrations as well, is that you have a vision, right? So you probably had a vision of what you want it to look like, and you want them to tell that story, but also as an artist, they want to express and show their style too. So it's a really, really interesting process. I enjoyed it, and I think, yeah, the initial write's kind of the quick part. There's the follow-up stuff. But yeah, very, very cool.
And a lot more goes into it than you think. It's an interesting process.
Yeah, I think when people grab a book, whatever it is, whether it's Harry Potter or a longer novel or something, I think we read it and you don't think about the story, where did it come from, and then the time to get that on paper and the amount of edits and to deliver you something that is complete. So yeah, it's a really interesting kind of perspective that, yeah, I don't think we think about, right? Even when you grab a book, you read it, you don't really process, how did it get to this beautiful thing that's in my hands? That, because I'm still very much, I know people read on Kindles and stuff, but I like to hold a book in my hands, especially I think like kids books, and the illustrations and just the pages and stuff. So yeah, very cool. Sydney, thank you so much for joining us again. I think Sydney's been on every one of our webinars.
Hi, Sydney.
Sydney is a rock star. Sydney is a shark expert by now, I'm pretty sure, ocean expert. So Sydney would like to know, why did you choose this job? So how did you start writing? And also how did you start writing kids books? What inspired you?
Yeah, it's a great question. Sydney and everyone, I've wanted to be a writer forever. And started writing things of some sort, poems or little silly things, from a very young age. And I knew that I wanted to be a writer for real when I was in high school. And so I was like 15 or so, and I started writing more seriously. I tried to write a book, tried to write these short stories, which are short, like 5-6 pages, maybe 8 pages. And when I went to college, I went to a school that had a good writing program, and then I went to another school, a grad school for writing. So I've just been doing it forever. And the big secret here is that writing is still not my main job. I still have another job. I'm actually a literary agent, which means I represent writers. I work with writers. I help writers get their books published. And because I've always cared so much about writing, I wanted to be in that place. So I work with a lot of other books. Some of them are kids' picture books, just like this. And other ones are science books that are really fun and informative. And other ones are just really cool stories. And so I love working in this world. And I've written a lot of different types of books. One of the things that's interesting about writing is that it's so not easy, and it's like exercising. You have to work hard to get better and better and better. So I have a couple books that are just sitting in a drawer. And then I actually have 2 books for 17, 18-year-olds that came out. One's called The Well's End, and one's called The Dark Water. And then after that, I wasn't expecting to write kids' books. But then, like I had mentioned, I just sort of, it came to me, 100 billion trillion stars came to me. And I wrote that out, and my publisher really loved it. And they bought 5 books from me. So I actually have, not only is the book coming out next week, but I have another book, my first one about facts, one just about a kid who wakes up in the morning, has to figure out what he wants to do. It's called When I Wake Up. And then that comes out next year. It takes forever for these things to come out. I wrote it a year ago. And then the one after that is another one with Isabel that's science oriented, and that's about light. I'm not done with it. I've been working on it for about 6 months. We're almost done. I don't have a title yet, but it's about all the really amazing things light does. So, it's something I've always wanted to do, and I don't think that has to be the case. I work with a lot of people who are decide at a later age that they want to do stuff. So, but if you want to write right now, feel free to, you should feel confident about giving it a try. The biggest thing you have to remember, though, it's like exercising. Don't expect to just magically have this perfect, amazing story. You have to work out. You have to do jumping jacks. You have to, learn how to do, writing. And if you want to do a rhyming poem, rhyming book, you still have to learn the words to be able to do the right rhyming. So it's just a lot of practice. But when you get there, it's really fun, and I just think it's one of the best jobs in the world.
Yeah, I think, those of you watching, you've heard me say this as well. We talked a lot about, we get questions of how to, advice, how to get involved and how to do this, whether it's marine science or diving or photography and things. And the biggest thing you've probably heard most of the guests, myself, the host, say is practice. If it's photography, get out there and take photos and practice and practice and practice. You're not going to get the cover of Nat Geo, your first photo, but that doesn't mean you can't get there. And with anything, and science is learning and getting experience and volunteering and internships. And so, yeah, it's that same idea of you have to practice. And for me, I wrote a kid's book when I was in high school for a project. It was required, we had to do it for a class, and I sat on it and thought, I really enjoyed this, and sat on it for 20 years, and then went, actually, we can self-publish, and I'm going to give this a try. And so, yeah, if it's something that you do when you're younger, yeah, you just kind of keep practicing and writing and finds a way to do it. And again, if you have that story, just start practicing now. There's options. And if you have a project at school, this is a really cool thing. Write a little book, write a poem, write a story, get pen to, or tablets now, and whatever, we're not so much pen to paper writing anymore. But yeah, it's practice.
Absolutely.
Cool. So Hannah wants to know if you have a favorite book or a book that you like best.
Hannah, that's the hardest question.
Yeah, that's probably the hard question for some of the other guests. That's probably that's the tough one.
I do. So there are a lot of books and a lot of different types of books that I love. So if it comes to the kids' picture books, smaller ones, a classic that I'm sure your parents have read too, that I think is one of the most perfect books, is Where the Wild Things Are. It's so beautiful. It's so well written. Every little word that he puts in there is on purpose, and it's really just amazing. I really love that. There's a new book out called Juliana Is a Mermaid, and it's about a boy who loves mermaids and he wants to be one. And I think it is so touching and wonderful. And there's a really amazing one that's a little sad called Big Cat, Little Cat, which is another really amazing one. And then there's one that's so inspirational that I cried at the end of reading it. It's called After the Fall by Dan Santat. He's pretty famous. He's done a lot of books. And that book is basically what happened with Humpty Dumpty after the fall. He's been put together, and but he's very afraid of heights now. So those are ones for kids' books. When you get up a little bit older, there's so many others. everything from Where the Red Fern Grows to Maniac McGee to Ender's Game. You know, that's like a little bit more, still kids, but a little bit older. And I can keep going forever. This could be 60 minutes of me just giving names of good books. So.
Very cool. I actually just recently read Island of the Blue Dolphins again, that I think was required reading in like grade 3 or 4 or something, and a neighbor had it, and I was borrowing books and was like, I'm gonna read this again. So it's kind of cool to go back and like I recognize some of those titles, and yeah, it's tough because that's, I imagine for you, I mean, especially when you work in that world too, it's not, you know, you're exposed to so many of them. So we did have a question. If you were gonna write a book about any animal, is there a specific animal you would like to write a book about?
I'll probably write about the duck-billed platypus. You heard that was a pretty quick answer. But the duck-billed platypus was my dad's favorite creature. And so we always had like weird pieces of art about, or pictures of it around my house. Unfortunately, my dad passed away. So it's very strange. This little animal has become like a symbol of my love for my pop. And that said, it's also one of the craziest creatures that are out there. I know some of you might know that it, what it looks like, has a little bill and it has a little fur and whatnot. But the things that you might like, for example, did you know that the male duck-billed platypus has a poison stinger on it? I didn't know that. It's in its hind leg to defend itself, and it's a very poisonous barb. So stuff like that. Like, I had no idea about that. It's crazy. So it's a really interesting creature, and I think I'd probably do that because I think it would be cool to share that with people.
Very cool. And we had somebody else ask, but you kind of touched upon, but any final kind of advice for somebody or for kids who are, I mean, aside from the practice, but any other kind of piece of advice for kids or older kids at heart watching that might want to start writing or write their own book? What kind of a final?
Well, the biggest thing aside from practice is reading. You have to read to be able to write. When you read, if you read as a writer, you read for fun, but you also see what the author is doing. Like, what is this game the author's playing? What is the author putting in here? And it's fun to kind of do that sort of thing. The other thing is to just sort of, you practice writing, but do some sort of writing prompts. There's a lot of things online just like this, especially right now. There's gonna be free little classes. So if it's drawing, there's Mo Willems, doing, he does the piggy and elephant and the pigeon, the bus. He does drawing things, and he talks a little bit about, how to write things and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of opportunities right now to look online. If you're trying to do some, some older stuff, it's the same thing. But the biggest thing in my estimation would be to write some prompts. So basically every day, come up with one thing. It's basically, it can be so silly, but it'll open you to writing. And be okay with writing badly at first, right? Even the first of every day, even if you write well. So just try to take 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day and think, I'm going to write about the backyard. Just it. That's it. I'm going to write I heard a noise at night. Now I'm going to write about that. 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day. And then after a little bit of that, you're going to come up with some ideas. And then just explore it, write it and read about that kind of things. Try and read in that area. And it's a process. It takes a while to do it. But everything in life is like that. And the biggest thing is to read, and then to explore the things that are online right now. These amazing creators, and learn about what they do, because it's kind of fun. For those adults in the room, I do think Stephen King's book on writing is like a really down to earth, wonderful book that sort of teaches his method, and you can write anything. So it's that's an interesting one too. So yeah.
Being from Maine, Stephen King, I've been by his house and seen him in the grocery store before. I grew up pretty close to him. So, well, thank you guys so much. First off, Seth, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. This has been wonderful.
With us. Guys, on the website, the sharksforkids.com, under the webinars, we have all the links. You can follow Seth on his social media pages, his website's there, links to order the book, because now you've seen it and you're definitely going to want to have your own copy, I'm sure. And make sure to tune in. We've got a few more of the webinars finishing up the year. And then thank you so much to all the people who typed in questions and joined us today. But thank you, everyone. And thank you so much, Seth. Have a great afternoon. You too. And listen, this was a real pleasure, and I hope you guys are holding up well. And, you know, here's to it. So see you at the next Shark for Kids webinar, all right? Sounds good. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.